Hey everyone, so in this video we are going to talk about my MacBook setup, so let's get into it. First and foremost, I want to touch on why I'm making this video. I had a subscriber who had watched one of my videos and kind of liked the way that my shell looks and basically just kind of got a I basically just got a comment that showed that where the well, virtually the subscriber liked the shell setup, like my my color theme and so forth, and wanted to know what type of terminal I use and all that stuff and how I get it to look this way. So if I go to say, let's go to one of my projects and just list some stuff. Yeah, this color theme here is called Solarized, and you might wonder, okay, how do I get it to look this way? Easy peasy. Let's walk through the terminal, but I'll also show you my entire MacBook setup so that you can know exactly what I have in terms of tools and what this setup I have here is on my personal private MacBook. I do most of my work on this laptop if I'm not doing work, of course, professionally at my job, because I have my own workstation there, of course. But let's get into it. So the terminal of choice for a MacBook for me is iTerm 2. There's a newer version out, but I haven't upgraded yet, so I might do that fairly soon. So this terminal is extremely nice. It is one of the first things that I install on my computer whenever when I'm setting up my MacBook. The second thing is Oh My Shell, which is this amazing project here where you can basically install different themes, different tools, all of that's good stuff. And as you can see here, the theme that I'm using is called Agnoster. That's where all these colors are coming from and so forth. And if you are the unfortunate, I actually just got a comment right before I was going to make this video. The subscriber basically said, "Oh, I'm on a Windows machine. What do? I don't have access to this stuff." Well, I use Baboon for my Windows setup because I actually do have a Windows machine. I don't do a lot of development on that machine unless I'm doing something in C# or something of that nature, of course. This shell is much nicer than the like Win. I'm sorry, Microsoft does a lot of stuff well, but the shell, it's a little bit behind. They're starting to pay attention to it, but right now this shell here is the way that I use. I go this way. This is it's a fairly good project, I have to say. All right, so we've covered the shell. Let's look at the tools for the shell. First and foremost, here is my shell setup, where you can see that my theme is Agnoster. We're in Vim right now, which is another tool that I'll touch on in just a moment. And apart from that, I have a bunch of aliases. C for clear, so I clear my screen. D for basically going up one directory. G for just saving myself to type CD. H to go to my home directory. And then I have very specific for different, like for my most common projects, and like doc for going to documents, DL to go to like basically common directories. I have small abbreviations for that. And then of course I have my different path setups depending on, if I'm doing PHP development, or if I'm doing Go, or if I'm doing Rust, or whatever I'm playing around with basically. So that's my setup for that. And Vim, which is the terminal editor that you're seeing now, the text editor that I highly recommend Vim. It is gold for anybody who works mostly in the terminal. If you don't want to have something like a Sublime text editor or a Visual Studio Code text editor, this is fairly standard. I think that there's a lot of value to learning Vim, at least the basics. You don't have to be a pro, but I really recommend having a look at it. So this is my Vim RC setup with my basically my custom installed plugins and stuff of that nature. If you're wondering about so you see, Vim doesn't support plugins out of the box, but Vundle does. And Vundle is basically it's just a way for you to add functionality to Vim. So I have really only one right now. I haven't been using Vim for all that much in the lately, but I use something called NerdTree basically, which allows me to basically just open and yeah, this is basically just a way for me to have a file outline or a project outline so I can select files and so forth. And my absolute favorite thing in Vim, because Vim works on a basically an opt-in opt-out of editing system. So if I do I and I can start typing here, for example, I can use like for me, the one and only thing that I actually add to my Vim setup are these two things. So IMAP QQ and VMAP QQ is basically me saying that, all right, if I'm in edit mode, like, or rather insert mode, for example, which is IMAP, if I hit QQ, just drop me out of that and go back to like the default mode where I can just maneuver around in Vim. So QQ is the only like shortcut key I actually have for Vim. Let's look at the next thing. Now, this is one of the most important ones, Brew. Brew is a package management system for iOS basically. It is, or for your MacBook. It's the absolute most important thing that you can install as a programmer on your MacBook. And here you see an outline of the packages I'm using right now. My favorites are of course Cocoa Pods for my iOS development setup when I do like Swift programming or something like that. Of course I have Elixir because Elixir is awesome. Exorcism is one of my favorites as well because coding challenges is the greatest thing ever. So go and check out exorcism.io if you haven't, if you want to learn programming. I would say that Exorcism, this is the way that it was meant to be taught, like how programming was meant to be taught to professionals. I would argue that this is a very, very, very useful tool for a professional who wants to get better at a new language. Then I, of course, have Go. Heroku is one of my I use Heroku mostly because of one project I'm kind of fiddling around with. Maven for my Java development. And then, of course, I have Ruby and Python. SPT and Scala because hey, these days I do Scala development. Tree, I'll show you that, it's one of my most used commands. And of course Vim. So the other ones I kind of use on and off, but for the most part these are the ones that I use. So Tree is basically just a CLI tool that allows me to do tree, and I can just give it a directory and it's going to print out the file structure for me in this very nice manner. I absolutely love it. Use it quite a bit, and that's basically my terminal setup. Let's have a look at some other stuff. Now, apart from Brew, which is like a must-have for me, and iTerm is also a must-have. I mean, Ruby, the Oh My Shell is also kind of a must-have. I'm sounding like a broken record. I'm sorry. You have to know something about me. I am a minimalist. I don't install anything that I'm not using like very, very regularly. If it's not, I have the 80-20 rule. I only have the I have the stuff that I use 80% of the time. Anything else I throw away. I don't like having tools around that I'm not using. And one of the tools that I use like an addict is Alfred. This is the best thing ever. Instead of having the default search bar for iOS, Alfred beats it's not even a competition, guys. This is the best thing ever. Just get it for your computer. It will give you so much. I could do an entire video on just Alfred. And next up I have of course Docker, because Docker is absolutely amazing. So I don't have any processors right now. Let's do my Docker images. These are the ones that I'm playing around with right now. So Mongo, Nginx, Node, Grafana, Elasticsearch, and Prometheus, which are some images basically. So install Docker and you see this little icon here. Docker is like, it's not a must-have per se, but it is really, really, really great. And apart from that, I have these are my most commonly used tools. Of course I use Google Chrome because hey, Google is like, they have the best browser, and it's like they are my favorite IT company. I'm sorry, I have almost nothing but love for that company. And we have iTerm, Xcode of course, Android Studio because hey, I do Android development as well. Sketch is it is amazing. Sketch for design purposes, there is nothing better. Sketch is my absolute favorite design tool. I absolutely love it. And then I have Visual Studio Code, which I use like an addict. I used for like everything. And then I use Eclipse, and before you judge me, I want you to know that I use IntelliJ as well. The only reason why I use Eclipse these days is because I recently needed to run Tomcat and a few other things, and I don't want to pay the license for IntelliJ because it's pricey, and Eclipse is free, and although I use IntelliJ at my job because I have the license there from my company, and I'm a little bit cheap with these things. So I started with Eclipse when I started my career, and it just works for me. I can't really justify it more than that. But for honestly, IntelliJ it's a pretty great IDE as well. I would say it is better than Eclipse, but you know, I'm weird. Anywho, Slack is my chat application of choice. It is the best of the best. Hopefully you've heard about it. If you haven't, try it out. Pitch it to your company, use it for absolutely everything, and it's made in Electron, which makes it 100 times cooler than if it was made in something else. Skitch is, well, it's great. It's great for highlighting things on images and stuff like that. Usually I use this because I take a screen. Usually when we get a bug report or something like that, or I want to report a bug, what I do is I take a screenshot of the issue, and then I have Skitch to kind of highlight the issues on the screen with errors and stuff like that. So Skitch is really good. And Skype, of course, you know Skype. And then finally I have Spotify, and I actually have, well, I do. This is like Peaceful Piano is one of my favorite playlists. Zen in the folk for, well, this playlist here basically. This is my favorite playlist for working. I use this. This is like my go-to for absolutely everything. When it comes to, like, if I need to just zone out, I put on my noise cancelling earphones, and I just put this playlist on, and then I kind of go into the mist. And I shit you not, if you need to talk to me, you have to break my line of sight, otherwise I won't notice that you're in the room. So yeah, these are basically, yeah, that about covers it really. This is my entire MacBook setup, and this is, well, this is my private MacBook. Have a great day.